Hello everyone. This is a quick overview of cellular respiration and photosynthesis for week 4 in Bio 120. So life requires chemical reactions in order for it to be sustained. And these chemical reactions produce energy, which allows life to continue. The chemical reactions that take place in organisms is called metabolism. Metabolism is all the chemical reactions that take place in organisms. Through metabolism, energy is produced in the form of ATP. ATP is the most important energy molecule in all organisms because it furnishes energy to the many enzymes that carry out the work in cells. Here is a diagram of the ATP molecule. You notice that it has 3 phosphate groups. And this is important because when these phosphate groups are released from the ATP molecule, adenosine triphosphate, a good amount of energy is released, and this energy can be picked up by enzymes for the enzymes to do their work. Here's one bond, and here's another bond with the phosphate groups on the ATP molecule. So this is a picture of an enzyme. This one is called amylase. It breaks down starch into sugars. We have this in our mouth. We have this in our intestines. And it just looks like a glob. Most enzymes are proteins. So this will show you why proteins are so important, especially the enzymes, because they carry out all the biochemistry in cells. What are enzymes like? They have a specific job. Each enzyme has one job. It has one chemical reaction to do. It either makes or breaks bonds. There are thousands of different enzymes in every cell in every organism. Of course, there are different enzymes in different cells, but there are thousands of them. They run chemical reactions, and the code for making them is found in DNA, and that's why organisms have so much DNA, because all the code is needed in the DNA to make all the enzymes that any organism needs. Aerobic respiration. If you look at the term, you can figure out something about it. Aerobic means with oxygen. Respiration, you know what that is from your bodies. You breathe in, you breathe out. That's respiration. So why do you breathe in and breathe out? You breathe in to get the oxygen out of the atmospheric air, and you breathe out to release your waste product, which is CO2 or carbon dioxide. So in aerobic respiration, this process requires the use of oxygen. So that's why it's called aerobic respiration. Glucose is broken down in aerobic respiration, and the end goal is to produce a lot of ATP molecules from one glucose. Where does this happen? It happens in mitochondria, in the eukaryotes, like animals and plants, etc., and at the plasma membrane in bacteria because they aren't big enough to have mitochondria. It begins with a biochemical pathway called glycolysis, and you will hear this again. So glycolysis is the breaking in half of a glucose molecule. You produce a total of 2 ATP molecules, but through aerobic respiration, you actually can produce many more ATPs. Part of the pathway of aerobic respiration is called the electron transport chain and chemiosmosis. And the purpose of these two processes is to take all of the different energy molecules that are produced through aerobic respiration and convert them all to ATP molecules. So theoretically, with aerobic respiration, and I do say theoretically, you can break down one glucose molecule and make 38 ATPs, which is a lot of energy from one single sugar. All right, next we're going to switch over to fermentation and anaerobic respiration. In both of these processes, they do not require oxygen, and they begin with glycolysis. Oh, here it is again. So the very same biochemical pathway, the breaking in half of a glucose molecule. Glucose is converted into ATP with both of these processes. So see, that's something that they have in common with aerobic respiration. They both do this without oxygen. And there is slower growth in any organism that uses fermentation or anaerobic respiration. You have different waste products that are produced. Carbon dioxide is the waste product produced in aerobic respiration. With fermentation and anaerobic respiration, you produce many different waste products. Everything from alcohols to acids to gases. There are many, many different products produced by these processes. Some of them we want. So if you've ever been to a brewery, you know that there are huge vats of hops and barley and all sorts of things that are used to make beer. And the whole reason for setting up these culture vessels is to make ethanol, which is found in beer, and that's why people like to drink beer. All right, then on to photosynthesis. So in photosynthesis, the whole purpose of it is to produce food in the form of glucose. And you do this by using light energy, and that is the energy that comes from the sun. So what do you need in order to do photosynthesis? If you're a photosynthesizer, you need sunlight, obviously, and you need a whole set of pigments, and these include 2 chlorophyll pigments, and you know of these as green pigments, chlorophyll A and B. You also need some accessory pigments, the xanthophylls and carotenoids. Different pigments that help the other 2 chlorophyll molecules gather up sunlight energy. You also need the input of ATP in order to make glucose, and you need CO2 molecules, which are found in the air. So there's got to be a way to make glucose, which is C6H12O6, from something, and so that something is CO2 molecules. In the end, through sunlight energy gathered up by pigments with the input of ATP and using CO2 molecules, you make glucose, C6H12O6. And the waste product of this is oxygen, which of course we breathe in. So that is an overview of cellular respiration processes and photosynthesis for this week.